All right, everyone. So we are back with some news, discussion, and updates for Raid Shadow Legends, and I wanted to get into a bit of a discussion in the video today. So it's not just going to be news and updates. Part of it is also going to be my personal opinion on something, and that is going to be the first thing that we're going to discuss today, and that is we do have a summoning event going on that just started up, and it's going to be a 10 times rates event for a Void Legendary Champion, Sophie the Lost Bride. This was posted in the Discord server by Valkyrie. Hello all. We are going to restart the server in about 30 minutes at 9 a.m. UTC for turning on the 10 times chances to summon Sophie the Lost Bride from Void Shards. You'll also find an in-game news announcement about that. The downtime won't be long. Happy summons to you all. So the actual announcement is up in the news feed. If you go to the left side of the screen, you'll see it here at the top. 10 times chance to get Sophie the Lost Bride. Very similar to the many summoning events that we've had at this point. I'm not really going to get into the long discussion that I usually have about how I feel about these events because it is exactly the same as I've said in so many videos in the past. You guys are definitely going to be better off saving up your Void Shards. You know, these events are always a long shot. It's maybe a nice little gamble to do a couple of pulls here and there, but if you really want to be conservative with your resources and get the most out of them, absolutely save them for the much better events, the ×2 rates events that come around every few months or so. It feels like it's been a while since we had one for Void Shards, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm mixing it up with one of the other ones, but I actually will not be doing any summons on the summoning event. I did a few on the last one, and it didn't really go very well. I won't spoil the entire summoning video if you guys want to go back and watch it, but this one I will actually 100% be completely skipping out. It really feels like, even for me, and I actually feel like recently I've been pulling a lot more shards than I normally do, there's still just too many summoning events. I can't pull on absolutely every single one of them. It would just get way too crazy, way out of control. I need some more time to save up my shards and resources, and this is one I'm just going to miss out. Now, it's unfortunate because Sophie the Lost Bride is actually a pretty darn good champion. She has some very powerful skills in the Undead Hordes. You'll see her here. Her auto attack attacks an enemy has an 80% chance of placing a sleep debuff for 1 turn if the target's turn meter is equal to or above 50%. This debuff cannot be resisted, heals all allies by 5% of their max HP if the target's turn meter is below 50%. Then you have her second ability, which is crazy. It fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%, places a block debuffs buff, a 60% increased defense buff, and a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. 5-turn cooldown, but you can lower it down to 3 turns with skill books. Absolutely insane second ability right there. You have her third ability, revives a single ally with 55% HP and a full turn meter, places a 50% increased attack buff and a 30% increased crit rate buff on the ally for 2 turns. Still a very strong ability. You guys know how I feel about increased crit rate, though. I've talked about it quite a bit, especially in the video from yesterday, actually, when I really get into the detailed discussion about crit rate and crit damage, but still a very strong revivability nonetheless, with a possibility to go down to a 4-turn cooldown. And you have her passive here, heals each ally by 50% of their max HP at the start of each turn, at the start of their turn. Very important difference, actually. Even though I originally mispronounced it a little bit, very important difference. You might be wondering, what's the difference between this and, you know, say the continuous heal ability? Well, the continuous heal ability only lasts for 2 turns, and if you have really fast champions, those 2 turns are going to go by very quickly. They might go by way quicker than you actually get the ability to recast it. So you're going to have a lot of turns of downtime where you're not getting that 15% heal. Whereas this ability, it's a heal every single turn your champions take for 15%. So it's like an insane continuous heal. It also has that 40% chance, which you can boost up to 50% with skill books, of removing freeze and fear. And of course, you've got that bonus with Rotos the Lost Groom on the same team. She also has ally resist in all battles. Nonetheless, just a super powerful skill kit overall. Lots of crazy support and utility, and it's definitely a very good champion. But you know, even with these summoning events, they're such a long shot, and they just really don't feel like they're designed very well. And this is coming from looking at it at a point of other games that have similar types of summoning events. It seems weird the way that Raid Shadow Legends does it. It almost seems like they try to throw the words at you, 10 times chance of summoning, without really getting into the details behind what that really means. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially considering that because there's so many less void legendaries compared to regular legendaries from ancient and sacred shards, it's actually a much better event for void shards than when it comes out for champions that come from ancient and sacred shards. We've also had this event so many times now that, I really feel like this event just needs to change. And I'm not just talking about, for a lot of people playing, it really feels like such a whale event, but I think it would also be in Plarium's best interest from a business perspective to change the way that these events work as well. Because, as of right now, it just feels very strange. It just doesn't feel right seeing how often we've had these and how they really haven't made any kind of improvements to these events anytime lately. So I wanted to spend a few minutes just telling you guys, I've been thinking about this a little bit, especially considering how many of these summoning events that we've had, and just a few little key points that I spent an hour or so thinking about when it comes to these summoning events is, first of all, we've just had so many of these now. It feels like they pop up so much, and the first time we got these, when it was like with Gorgorab and a couple of the other epics, it was exciting because we hadn't seen them before, and it was the first time that we actually had an increased chance of getting specific focused units compared to every other unit in the game, whereas before it was an equal chance. You had the same chance of getting this unit compared to that unit, and it was always like that, and we had never seen it before. But now that we've had these events so often, it really feels like it's taken away a lot of the specialness to them, and they just pop up so much that nobody, even people who spend a decent amount of money, and I include myself in that category, even I can't really save up the shards to summon on every single one of these events at this point. They just pop up way too frequently. So that's one reason right there. Now, another one is the 10 times boosted rates. They're just way different based on what shards they come from. So you've got your epic and your legendary champions, of course, and then you've got whether they are a boosted rates event for champions that come from ancient or sacred shards, so the non-void legendaries, and then you have your void legendaries. And weirdly enough, these events are just way better for the void legendary focused champions because there's way less void legendaries in the actual champion pool. The effect and the meaning of a 10 times boosted rates means a lot more when there's a lot less champions in the pool, because it's like, picking 10 numbers out of 100 versus picking 10 numbers out of 1,000,000. And there's still 10 in both categories, but because you have way less in one now compared to the other, it means a lot more. So it feels like it should be the other way around, especially considering that, generally speaking, void shards and void legendaries are better and considered more rare, but it's actually not. So this whole event just seems very strange, and after looking at it a bit further, it really feels like they could do a lot, not just for the overall player experience, but also from Plarium as a company to make this event a lot better in the future. But it doesn't seem like they're really going down that route. It seems like they're just relaunching the same 10 times boosted rates event over and over and just changing the actual champions that they are focused from. So, and the third reason, this is one that I've talked about a lot, so not really going to spend much talking about it, but, these events are just way worse in pretty much every way, shape, and form than the ×2 events that we get every couple of months, where you actually have an increased chance of getting epics and legendaries. This event, if you actually go to the summoning category here, you'll see in the information screen it's the same chance of getting epics, it's the same chance of getting legendaries. It's just if you do get lucky and you get an epic or legendary, there's an increased chance of getting a specific focused unit. But with the ×2 rates events, you actually have a much higher chance of actually pulling epics and legendaries themselves. So always going to be the best events to save up for if you value your resources and want to get the most out of them. But, overall, my conclusion and my suggestion for Plarium, I know they're probably not going to watch this video or take any of this to heart, but still, they did tell me that if I do give them any kind of crazy criticism like this, try to provide at least some sort of suggestion, so I thought I would throw this in there. But, you should really look at possibly redesigning the 10 times events in the future to really actually be more meaningful. When these events roll around, it should actually be a thought in a lot of people's heads that, hey, if I actually do a decent amount of summons, there's actually a decent chance that I will have to be able to pull the focus unit. Now, this is somewhat true for the void champions and the void focused units because there's a lot less of them in the pool, but when it comes to the legendaries from ancient and sacred shards, it's really weird because there's so many legendaries in the pool. Even if you do a ton of summons, and I'm talking like 1,000 ancient shards, which is so unrealistic for 99.9% of people playing the game, you still don't even have an insanely good chance of pulling the focused unit. So, in a lot of other games, they do have these rate up type events. However, instead of doing it the way that Plarium does, and throw the label 10 times rates, a lot of other games, it's kind of like a 50-50 chance. Like when you summon during these rate up events, you'll have a 50% chance of pulling a non-focused unit, and then you'll have a 50% chance of pulling whatever the focus unit is. That seems to be common in many different games. I think that would be a much better road to go down, because then if you do summons, you at least have a decent chance. So redesigning the event in that way, you know, I suggested anywhere from 33 to 50% chance of actually getting the rate up champion. It seems like it would be a lot more player friendly, and it could definitely make a lot more sense for player as well in terms of business, because if you've been playing the game for a while like I have, and you've been through probably 10 of these 10 times rates events, you know, they just lose a lot of meaning, specialness, and you kind of see what they really are after you know, summoning on many of them before. So that's everything that I wanted to mention, my suggestions for why these events really need to change in the future, but I expect that none of this is going to happen, and we'll probably see another couple of these 10 times rate events pop up in the next few weeks to months or so. So that's everything involving the actual summoning event, but now we've got some other news to get into. So next up is more announcements from the actual Raid Shadow Legends Discord. We actually have the return of one of the tournaments coming back, because a lot of people were banned. We had a lot of problems with Raid Shadow Legends over the last couple of weeks, and they are actually bringing back the Spider tournament that started on Valentine's Day for people who did not get Mystic Hands. Now, originally they actually said that they would be giving out the champions to people who were not able to access the game. Now they ended up posting this today saying they're bringing back the tournament and you'll have a chance to get those champions. So this personally had me a little bit confused. Does this mean now that they are going to be canceling the champions that they gave out to people who they said they would? If you guys were unable to log in, can anybody confirm or deny this for me? Because it seems a little bit strange to me that they would say they would be giving out the champions to people who are unable to log in, and now they're bringing back the tournament, so you either have another chance to get the champions, or they're going to be canceling the fact that they're giving out the champions, and now you actually have to play through the tournament. So, you know, a little bit of Polarium shady stuff. I don't really know the whole situation, so I'm not going to comment much further on this. But those of you guys who, if you were banned or were unable to log in, please let me know if you got any kind of champions or if you didn't yet. So that tournament is going to be coming back, though, so keep an eye on that. Now, we have some other Discord announcements as well related to a bunch of different bugs and things that have been happening in Raid Shadow Legends, problems, issues with the games, etc. So first of all, there was a problem with one of the Battle Pass quests where it wasn't actually giving you credit for ascending champions. They're looking into it, and they'll keep you updated. It's not fixed yet, though, so warning, don't ascend champions right now. Because you might not get credit for the Battle Pass if you guys are working on that. And again, if you guys are, if you don't have the paid version of the Battle Pass, you can still actually work on the weekly quests all the way up until the end of the Battle Pass. And if you do decide to get it, you know, say on the last day or whatnot, you'll actually have been able to work through the progress on the quest. I know a lot of Battle Passes work similar to that, but for the time being, either way, the Ascent part of it doesn't work properly, so I would still you know, be cautious of that and maybe wait a little while to ascend some of your more valuable champions. There was a problem with accessing clans, clan bosses, etc. Apparently that has been fixed in the next post right there, guys. It seems to be, the game seems to be stable, and the problem with accessing clan and clan boss tabs has been fixed. So the clan issue has been fixed, but the ascension issue has not been fixed. It's very important. They didn't post any update to that, you know, at the time of me recording this video right here. So that's everything related to the Discord announcements. There's one other news announcement in-game right here. If you guys have the Amazon Prime, you know, whatever you want to call it, where we're getting a bunch of different stuff if you connect your Amazon Prime accounts. If you're using the free trial of that as well, you still end up getting credit for this stuff. But there is a new thing available now, so make sure you guys claim it. It's just 5 ancient shards and 4 rank 4 chickens. Just some additional stuff. If you've already got an Amazon Prime account, might as well connect it. Doesn't cost anything extra. Get some free stuff for Raid. If you don't, you can either just not really worry about it. This one is, you know, it's a nice little bonus, but it's not anything super insane like a free epic champion. But it doesn't cost anything extra, so might as well get some free stuff while you're at it. And then today is actually, besides that Spider tournament, today is the last day of the actual fusion-related events. So we've got the Dungeon Divers event ending later today, which I did actually finish up. Because I've been working a lot on the tournaments. And speaking of tournaments, today is also the last day of that Dragon tournament. which has that last champion that we need for the fusion. So by this point, you should have had access to get all of the champions for the Rotos fusion if you are going for it. And I mentioned that because even if you're not going for the actual Rotos fusion itself, there's a lot of other very, very strong champions here, both epics and rares, that might actually be worth just using those instead of actually going for the fusion itself. So I know Sepulchre, however you pronounce it in Sentinel, very, very strong champion. There's a couple of other very good rares in here, but at this point, you should have had the opportunity. And as you guys can see, I'm at that point now. I've gotten all the rares, but I still have to actually take the time to ascend them and get everything ready for the actual fusion. So even though the events all end today, we still have almost 10 days left on the actual fusion timer. So still plenty of time to wait for the Ascension dungeons, ascend, level up, do all that sort of stuff. But at this point, though, you should at least have the champions if you are going for it. So and besides that, that's pretty much everything Raid Shadow Legends related. I know a lot of people are going to be wondering after this fusion, after the summoning event, you know, what's going on? What's going to be next? And that's kind of the thing to ask. You know, we've had a lot of problems and crazy stuff going on in Raid, and usually after the fusions, there's a little bit of downtime before we get announcements or news of what is going to be coming next. So I expect that we're going to be entering a little bit of a slow period in the game for at least a few days to a week or so. We might see some of the smaller events pop back up again, maybe some of the smaller tournaments that don't have fusion rewards or whatnot, but it's probably going to be a little while before we see anything really too crazy pop back up in the game. So, you know, that's really all I know. I don't have any inside info as of right now. You know, I wish I did, but that's all I got. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, news announcements, my discussion about how I feel about summoning events, and that is going to be everything for today. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you all enjoyed, and if you guys did enjoy this video and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. Really appreciate all the support, everyone. Thank you, thank you. If you want to help out, tossing a quick like means more than you can imagine as well, so thank you to all of you guys who do that. And more Raid Shadow Legends videos should be popping up on the screen right about now. Feel free to check them out. Almost 200 Raid Shadow Legends videos in the playlist on the channel. Lots of stuff. If you're looking for something specific, you should be able to find it. You know, thanks again, everyone. Have a fantastic day. And this is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.